Science says it's biologically impossible for my fingerprint to exist on the throat of someone who died in 1926. Yet, looking through the magnifying glass at this dusty daguerreotype, the loops and whorls are identical to my own hand. Every person in this antique photograph was strangled, and they were all killed by me long before I was even born. It began when I accepted a job cataloging the historical archives in the damp basement of the city library. My task was simple: sort, clean, and digitize a massive collection of late 19th century glass plate negatives and daguerreotypes. One rainy afternoon, I pulled a heavy, dust-covered box from the bottom shelf. Inside was a single, velvet-lined case containing a silver daguerreotype. It was a portrait of four solemn individuals sitting in high-backed chairs: a young dandy in a high collar, an old woman in lace, a little girl clutching a doll, and a middle-aged gentleman. I set the heavy plate on my mahogany desk under the warm, green glow of my banker's lamp. Something about the victims' expressions felt off. They weren't just posing. Their faces were frozen in masks of raw, silent panic. I reached for my brass magnifying glass and focused on the young man's neck. Beneath his high collar, pressed deep into the silver emulsion, was a dark, bruised impression. It was a fingerprint. My heart skipped a beat. I am a forensic archivist, and I spent years studying friction ridge analysis. I focused the lens closer, tracing the ridge patterns. I saw a rare double-loop whorl with a distinct scar slicing diagonally through the core. It was a pattern I knew intimately. I looked down at my own right thumb. The scar, the whorl, the loops, they were identical. Trembling, I reached for a bottle of dark forensic ink and stamped my thumb onto a clean card. I placed it under the magnifying glass next to the antique photograph. Ridge by ridge, line by line, the biological signatures matched perfectly. It was impossible. The photograph was taken over 100 years ago, yet the bruises on the throats of these dead people bore the exact signature of my modern hands. Desperate for answers, I opened a dusty, yellowed police record ledger from 1926. I flipped through the crumbling pages until I found the case files. 4 unsolved homicides, all committed on the night of November 12, 1926. The cause of death for each was manual strangulation. The files noted that the killer left deep, bruised impressions on the victims' necks, but forensic science at the time couldn't trace the killer. I sat back in the shadow of the archive shelves, my head clutching my hands as my mind raced. The beeswax candle on my desk melted down, casting long, wavering shadows across the rows of stacked historical glass negatives. I decided to walk down the dark, narrow basement aisles of the archives, my flashlight beam cutting through the damp fog, searching for the box of glass negatives from that fateful year. As I pulled out a box of glass slides, I found a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1926. The headline read, "The Midnight Strangler Strikes Again. Victims Found in Locked Rooms." The article described the killer as a phantom who left no traces, only the bruised prints on the throats of his victims. I walked over to a dusty, oval mirror hanging on the brick wall of the archive room. I looked at my reflection, trying to find some trace of a stranger in my own eyes. But as I stared, the shadows behind me seemed to shift, shaping into a dark, towering silhouette that mirrored my movements. My hands began to shake so violently that the glass negative plate slipped from my fingers, shattering onto the floorboards. A dark, ink-like liquid leaked from the broken shards. Panic seized me. I looked down at my hands. They were stained with the dark forensic ink, and they felt cold, heavy, and completely disconnected from my will. I slowly raised my hands, watching in horror as they moved toward my own throat. The loops and whorls on my skin seemed to press against my skin, matching the exact bruised patterns in the photograph. I looked back at the silver plate negative resting under the banker's lamp. In the background shadows of the sepia-toned portrait, a fifth figure was now faintly appearing. It was me, dressed in my modern clothes, standing behind the chairs, waiting for the blink of an eye.